Hello and welcome to Allergies with Aya, a podcast all about food allergies and related food hypersensitivities. Growing up with food allergies, being a food allergy awareness advocate, studying and researching food allergies, and now working in the food hypersensitivity regulation field, and getting to interact with world-leading researchers and experts, I have developed a passion for understanding all aspects of food allergy and other food hypersensitivities. In this podcast, we will be taking a closer look at the science behind food hypersensitivity and dissect some of the misinformation we often read or hear about. We will also hear stories from people with lived experience. My aim is to create a scientifically curious community and to get you interested in the science behind food allergies and other food hypersensitivities. Hi everyone, so welcome back to episode 5. In this episode, I am joined by my childhood friend, Gadah, as we discuss tips for travelling for food allergies and how kind of our friends can be our biggest supporters when it comes to dealing with food allergies. So we're going to be sharing some stories with you. This episode is just going to be us really having a bit of a chat. So I just wanted to kind of start by really introducing Gadah. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how we kind of know each other.
Yeah, so hi everyone. As Aya said, my name is Gadah. I'm 23 and I'm a dental student. And me and Aya are childhood friends. We actually met because Aya's mom used to childmind a group of us and we just kind of stayed in touch ever since.
So I thought I'd kind of start off by, going through some of the stories that we've kind of experienced. The first thing is just talking really about growing up. Both me and Gadah are from Iraqi backgrounds. The main thing with coming from kind of a Middle Eastern background is the fact that there are a lot of nuts, and I have an allergy to nuts and sesame seeds, and in Middle Eastern culture, nuts are very dominant.
And I think in our culture as well, food is such a big part of our culture. Any kind of gathering or like event is based around food. So
it was a bit of a kind of challenge growing up and kind of navigating food allergies, having nuts and sesame seeds and things like that constantly being around you when you go to like family friends' houses. And I think Gadah knows that quite well. I don't know if you remember any kind of experiences of me being at like aunties' houses and like
at different events when they've got a range of food on the table, even something as simple as having like nuts sprinkled on top of the rice, that would be kind of a red flag where you're like, oh, I can't actually eat that. I need to have something that's not had any contamination with nuts at all. And it would be, I remember, quite hard. Kind of everyone else's plate would be so colourful with loads of different things and yours would literally be like plain rice. I remember one time you even had just yogurt because you were worried the sauces contained nuts. I remember it being quite difficult for you.
In our culture, you have to kiss people on the cheek to say, well, you don't have to, but like, it's a kind of a sign of respect to like say hello, and then you kiss them twice on the cheek, or one on each cheek even. I remember I used to do that at first, and then I kind of stopped now because, they would eat nuts and then my cheek would go all red and it would like swell, and then I'd have to like go and wash my cheek. Or like if I'd go into a room and there's a lot of nuts, my face would all swell and it would get itchy and I'd have to take antihistamine syrup. And I know like now it's kind of changed. Family friends are much more aware and they'll like make me separate food, or they won't have nuts around as much, which is really nice. And I think that's a positive.
I remember once you came around and mum had made you like rice that was separate to everyone else's. And even we had cake, we put almonds on it, but we made a separate like bit for you. So you'd have some, I remember that.
I feel like as I've got older, I've used my voice more as well. I haven't been as embarrassed. I think when I was little, you get a bit embarrassed. You don't want to cause a fuss. You don't ever feel like that, guys. It's really important to speak up. It's your health at the end of the day, and people will always understand. And if they don't, then they're not worth your time. Let's move on to travel stories, because that was something else that I wanted to discuss with you. So me and Gadah decided to go to Greece. When was it? I think it was the summer of
2018, July 2018.
Yeah, 2018. Yeah. So we decided like very randomly to just go to Greece, and we found these like really cheap tickets. How much were they like?
I think it was under 100 quid, maybe just a little bit over. It was literally like 5 days before we went. And so I think we were both really excited. But I think I was a little bit naive, in all honesty. I'd obviously, you're my friend, I know you have allergies, but to me, it was something that you just in my head, allergic to nuts and sesame seeds, and that was like you just avoid foods containing those items. And I remember when we got on the plane, I'm sure you're going to tell the listeners now about what happened before, but when we got on the plane, I brought snacks with us, and I remember saying, "Oh, Aya, I've got some snacks for us on the plane. Would you like some?" And to me, it was an item that obviously didn't contain nuts. But I remember you being like, "Oh, let me let me read the packet. And I think it was then that the penny drops. I was like, oh, even though it's not like a fruit and nut chocolate bar, you still have to read the ingredients to make sure there's no cross-contamination, there's no may contain, there's no traces. And I was like, oh wow, like this affects you more than I realized. Even though I'd been your friend, I didn't really see it firsthand until I traveled with you. And that was something that kind of continued throughout the holiday. And it really opened my eyes up to it. And I was like, oh wow, this is a bigger deal than I thought.
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, I don't think I ever told you that at the time, because I was like, I should know this.
As Gadah said, it was a very kind of last minute trip. We literally decided 5 days before we're going to go to Greece, and it was very spontaneous. And a lot of the times I'm not very spontaneous, because obviously with allergies you kind of have to plan ahead a lot of the time with places that you go to, and making sure that there's places that you can eat that's safe out, or if not, taking food with you and taking kind of precautions. Although I was really excited, I was also a little bit nervous, like making sure, will there be places to eat, and if not, I'll just go to the supermarket and I'd buy like rice or anything that I feel a bit more safe eating. Before I travelled, I talked to a friend who speaks Greek and got her to write a passage really which says I have food allergies to nuts, sesame seeds, kiwis, and translate it into Greek. And then I printed it out and I just handed it over to every waiter and every place that we went. Do you remember that incident that we had? So we'd gone on like this walking tour, and we'd had like such an amazing time, like getting shown, was it the city centre of Thessaloniki?
Yeah, the first one was the old town, and the second one I think was the city centre.
Yeah, we went on like 2 free walking tours, and they were like the best thing.
So brilliant. I highly recommend.
Yeah, I highly recommend walking tour. But after the walking tour, we were like really hungry, and a group of the people who were in the walking tour said that they would go and have some food, so we just decided to join them. And we went to this restaurant and everyone started ordering burgers. And so I went up to the waiter. He actually spoke a bit of English. And so I just explained to him that I have food allergies again. I showed him the piece of paper with the translation and everything, and he showed it to his manager. And they both said, oh, that's fine, don't worry, we'll make sure there's no kind of contamination. We've got bread that's suitable for you to eat and everything. And so of course I was like, okay, that's great, they know, they're aware. And then do you remember when the food came, what happened?
Yeah, so the food came out and you'd ordered a burger, and you specifically said I can't have sesame seeds, and they're like, yeah, we can accommodate for that. And there was literally sesame seeds on your burger. And I remember just being just a bit taken aback. They weren't taking it seriously, I felt.
I even said, so I was like, oh, can I just ask what this is? And then he was like, oh, it's only one sesame seed. It's only one sesame seed. It's not going to cause a reaction. Is it that bad? Is it that bad? And I remember the people on the table as well being very like, oh, wow.
I think it was a bit of ignorance as well about kind of allergies in general. His reaction kind of showed that. And that's, not his own fault. It might just be that he's not aware. It would have been nice, been a bit more understanding.
Especially working in that type of environment, to be kind of...
I think it kind of ruined the meal for us as well, because we were a bit like, oh, they just don't... When you go somewhere, you want to feel like the people that are hosting you care about you. It's as silly as that sounds in that environment, but in a restaurant, you want to feel like the people that are making your food care.
Yeah.
And it came across as though they didn't.
Whilst, do you remember the other place that we went and we had, I think, spaghetti or something? And they were so amazing. I gave him like the list of my allergies and he was like, oh my gosh, we'll make sure everything's okay.
They made it from scratch for you, didn't they? I remember,
scratch, because they were scared of like the pasta having touched nuts or something. So they literally made
or the oil and things like that in the pasta.
Something like that. And so they literally made it all for scratch, and it was...
And the irony is that was the burger place was more of, I think, a chain.
Yeah.
It was like a big in the city centre, whereas the first place you'd want to, that was more of it was like in a little village. It was in the old town walking tour, actually.
Yeah, it was the one that we went to, the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, generally the trip went all right, I think.
I think for me, as I said before, was an eye-opener. I even remember, so obviously we were on holiday. I think we had ice cream pretty much every day.
I have ice cream. I think I had ice cream.
Well, this is the thing. So I think it's probably me doing most of the eating, because I remember we went to an ice cream parlour and they had all these different flavours. And in my head, if you've got allergies, you can still have vanilla ice cream, right? Allergies to nuts, there's no problem there. I remember you asking, and they couldn't assure us that there would be no cross-contamination, or even the scoops they'd used for different flavours hadn't, had cross-contamination. So I remember that day I got ice cream and you had to have a coffee instead. I don't want to say it affects your life massively, but it stops certain things. You have to think twice about it all the time.
I mean, for me, it's just kind of second nature. Like, I don't really that I have to do, and it's just not something I think twice about. But yeah, I guess from a different perspective, as someone who doesn't have allergies, it can be like, oh wow, different steps that you have to take that I don't even think about when I order. Yeah, I never really eat at kind of ice cream places generally, or if I do, I'd have to be 100% sure that
Yeah. And even when you did, I remember you'd always get the ones that were like, obviously in Greece, there's so many like fresh ice cream like parlors, right? And you'd always have to get the ones that were like sealed. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
as in they'd not been made on site. They'd
yeah.
came from a brand that you know, but definitely doesn't have.
A very different experience, I think, when someone else looks into it.
From an outsider's point of view, definitely.
How about like the plane then? I'm guessing that was your first time really traveling with someone who has food allergies.
Yeah.
Our first trip together as well. So
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. First of all, how great the airline were with both of us.
We went on Jet2, and beforehand I'd contacted Jet2 to let them know that I have food allergies. And then when I kind of went on, when I was boarding, I told them again that I have food allergies to nuts and sesame seeds and kiwis and things. And they then made an announcement, and they even stopped selling things that said may contain. And they were so lovely about it. And they even let Gadah sit next to me just in case anything happened. And we had separate seats. We'd booked like a cheap ticket, so they just kind of plopped us in different areas of the plane. But they let her sit next to me. They gave her kind of the option to sit next to me. And I remember even someone asked me, they were eating like a baguette or something, and they just asked me, is it okay if I eat this? Do you want to just check the label? And then I checked the label, and there was nothing in it that I was allergic to at the time. So I said, yeah, don't worry, you can eat it around me.
So yeah, I was really impressed with the airline as well, making that announcement, ensuring that you were okay. Yeah, it was a really pleasant experience overall. Everyone was lovely.
It was really, really nice compared to, for example, when I don't know if I've even told you about this. So there's 2 plane incidents that were just not nice. So I went to New York. It was my 3rd year of uni going into 4th year. I think it was the Easter holiday of 3rd year of uni. I can't even remember what year that was, to be honest. It might have been 2019 or something. I was traveling to New York. My best friend was doing a placement in New York. So I decided I'll go for 3 days in New York, and then I'd go to Detroit to see some family. And I traveled with United Airlines, it was, that I traveled with. And I remember again messaging them beforehand, telling them that I have allergies, and they said, oh, just tell them when you're boarding. Actually, I told them before I was boarding. So this was when I was in the airport, told the guy that I'd had, that I have food allergies. He was working for United Airlines. So he said that I'm very, very sorry, but United Airlines, their policy is that they can't make allergy announcements because they believe that it's discrimination for other passengers to not be able to eat what they want to eat. He said this to me, and he really understood. I'm guessing he must have been kind of affected by the news. At the time as well, there was quite a lot of allergy news going on. And so he was like, I'm really sorry, this is just the policy of that airline. I felt like I was about to cry. I was just shocked, and I just felt very kind of upset. I didn't really know what to do. I said, well, I'm still going to go on the plane, and I'll just tell them when I'm boarding. And so I started to go on the plane, and as I was boarding, I told the air hostess, I said, oh, I have food allergies, just to let you know I have food allergies. And then the guy behind me started laughing, because I guess I was holding the queue up. And the woman also said, well, we don't make announcements. She was very, very rude. And she said something, I can't even remember what she said, to be honest. She said, oh, haha, okay, or something like that. And they laughed. They didn't take it seriously at all. And then I remember during the flight, they were handing out croissants, and the air hostess handed me a croissant, and I said, oh, do you know what the ingredients are to this? Do you know if they've got nuts or anything? And she literally said, well, if you don't want it, don't eat it, and then placed it on my desk, or not on my desk, on my chair, as if having food allergies is a choice. And so I just looked at her, and I kind of looked at the passengers around me who were also a bit shocked. And I just left it. I didn't eat it. I was just very shocked and found it extremely rude, the way that they treated me, and that they laughed at the fact that I had food allergies. And then the second story was when I was flying back from Milan. So the flight to Milan is with Ryanair, and the flight to Milan was fine. They made an announcement, I remember, and it was absolutely fine. The flight back from Milan was where the issue kind of happened. So this was in February 2020, and it was actually right before COVID. Again, it was like a very last minute trip. On the way back from Milan, I told the air hostess when I was boarding again, I have food allergies to nuts, sesame seeds, kiwis, And they said that they'd make an announcement, and, they won't sell any products that contained the things that I was allergic to. So I said, thank you very much, went and took my seat. Halfway through the flight, the air hostess starts selling products, or handing out products I was selling. And the girl sitting next to me ordered a Kinder Bueno. Now, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure Kinder Bueno has like hazelnut or some type of nut in it, doesn't it? Like, I'm pretty sure. and she sold the Kinder Bueno to the girl sitting next to me. The problem with me is that I don't just react when I eat something. I react if I touch something. If the smell is really strong, I'll react. So either my breathing will go tight, or I might just get it might be a milder reaction, not anaphylaxis, but I will react if the smell is really strong around me. I might get like a swollen eye or something. And so I thought it was kind of very inconsiderate of the fact that they said that they were not going to sell nuts on the plane, and then they sold the girl sitting next to me a product that contained nuts. I told the girl sitting next to me, I was like, oh, sorry, but just to let you know, I have allergies to nuts. And they said they're not going to sell nuts on the plane, and then they've just sold you this. The girl was very, very nice, and she said, don't worry, I'm not going to eat it, don't worry. And then I asked the air hostess, I said, you've just sold this girl a product that contained nuts. She said she'll get back to me. She went and then talked to other air hostesses on the plane. They all kind of gathered together, and then she came back to me and said, oh, it's only a small amount of nut. It's not going to affect you. It doesn't have any nuts. We checked. I was so confused because first of all, she said it's a tiny amount of nuts and it won't affect me. And then she starts saying that it doesn't contain nuts at all, and that, it's very tiny, like there's nothing in it. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure Kinder Bueno has nuts in it. I don't know if is it hazelnuts or something?
I'm not pretty sure. Yeah, I think it's hazelnut.
Hazelnuts, yeah. And so I just found that the way that they handle the situation was really, really poor, and the fact that they don't even know what's in their own kind of product that they're selling, quite kind of shocking, really. And I found it very, very rude. And then I did contact Ryanair after that, and I didn't really get a response. Yeah, and I don't know if it's just education. It's just a lack of education, a lack of kind of awareness that they weren't going to sell nuts and they sold nuts is what kind of threw me off. But yeah, so that was kind of another experience for me. And then after that, I actually put that on Twitter, and then a journalist contacted me and said, can I write a story about this? And I said, go ahead, write a story, because Ryanair aren't getting back to me. They're not getting back to my emails. I've messaged them on Facebook. They really don't seem to care. So yeah, be my guest, write a story. Maybe it would get noticed and they might actually do something. What's kind of your experience of having me as a friend with food allergies?
So it's funny, it's never really doesn't really cross my mind. You're just, it's any normal friendship, I think. It only kind of comes to light when we go out for dinner and we have to ask like an allergen menu, or ensure, like, check the restaurant before to ensure that it caters for your needs. I think recently though, we went out and it was, last minute dinner, and I think you could only eat one thing on the menu, which was really disappointing. But having a friend that's got allergies, it's like any other friendship, but it only comes to light really when we go out, so for dinner or even to events. So I remember a few years ago we went to a concert, and upon entry it said on the door, no glass bottles, obviously to be taken into the concert stage. And they're obviously referring to drinks, but of course you had your antihistamine in a glass bottle in your bag. And I remember we had to show security and ask if we could take it in, and they were like, oh yeah, sure. But it made me think, oh, you've always got to be kind of on guard. You have your inhaler with you at all times, you have your antihistamine with you,
Depends.
Yeah, your EpiPen, of course. These are all things that you've got to be aware of. And I think also as a friend, it's nice to also be aware of those things. So I remember when we went on holiday, I think you gave me I already knew how to use an EpiPen, but you gave me a quick recap on how to use it just in case. And before we went out anywhere, whenever we left the hotel room, it was always like, okay, have you got your inhaler? Have you got your EpiPen? Have you got antihistamine? And to be honest, you're really good at it anyway, because obviously this is your life and you live with it. So you're always on it with that. But it's always nice to have someone just to be there who knows where things are, in an emergency should you need it.
I think it's really nice to have you as a friend, because you're very supportive with my food allergies, and it's really nice. I remember when we were in Greece and I was telling the waiter, oh, does this have sesame seeds? You were very kind of vigilant, and you kind of stood up for me at that time, because I felt quite embarrassed and I just didn't want to cause a fuss, but you stood up for me, which I really appreciated. And you're always kind of there. So whenever I'm in a restaurant, and sometimes what I do when I haven't eaten something before, I've never ate at that place, I'll have kind of a bite and then I'll see if I get a reaction. So I'll wait a little bit. And Gadah knows this really well. And she'll literally be like, are you all right? Are you all right? Is it okay? Is it okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's waiting, yeah.
Have you got your inhaler? Yes, Gadah, yes, mom. Yeah, you do take them seriously and you do care, and it's nice to have that, I think. And it makes me feel safe knowing that you know how to use an EpiPen and you know about my allergies, and there's always someone else to double check things like ingredients and just to make sure and to stand up for me when I'm feeling a bit low with having them and not wanting to cause a fuss. You're there to kind of stand up for me, which is really nice, I think. And that's why I kind of wanted to get you on the podcast, is because you've been one of the people who have done that for me, and I just really appreciate it.
Really nice to hear. I'm glad it makes you feel kind of supported and reassured. That's my job.
Little sentimental moment. But yeah, I mean, if you could give anyone tips? Say they've just found out their friend has been diagnosed with having food allergies. What would you kind of say?
As a friend, make yourself aware. First of all, if you don't know what anaphylaxis is, look it up. Know the signs and symptoms. Know how to use an auto-injector with adrenaline. Know where it is. Also, making yourself aware of like how you are, so like what you're consuming. So if you know your friend's got severe allergies where the smell of something can trigger them, just don't eat that when you're around them.
No, so it's been really interesting actually to talk to you, Gadah, about this, how to be a good friend and be a supportive friend, someone who has food allergies. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on this podcast, and yeah, I appreciate you as a friend. And
no, thank you for having me on, and it's been a pleasure.
I'll probably wrap up this episode now, but I just wanted to quickly give you a few tips from my own personal perspective of what it's like to fly with food allergies. So I think the first tip for me is to just inform the staff on the plane prior to boarding. So when you're booking really your ticket, just to email the staff, to research the airline policy. So that's something that I have definitely taken away from my United Airlines flight, was to just research the airline policy and see what their policy is with food allergies, because I don't think anyone wants the same experience that I had. And to check the place that you're going, so the country that you're going to, just to kind of make sure that they cater for allergies, to bring kind of a few snacks with you, so either on the plane or just so that you can have them when you're there. And I find buying a lot of kind of fresh fruit and vegetables from the local store, which is something that I often do a lot when I do go abroad, is we'd cook a lot ourselves. So we'd find a place where there's kitchen and things, and we'd do a lot of cooking ourselves. If we didn't trust that the place could provide safe, allergy safe food, then I'd often do a lot of cooking myself abroad. Also, to have that kind of translated list of allergens in the language of the country that you're going to, because I think that really helps. To bring, of course, all the medication that you need with you and extra. And to have kind of a medical bracelet as well, and something that can be kind of seen if anything was to happen. It can straight away tell the medical professional who's going to be handling a case that you're having an anaphylactic reaction, you're having an allergic reaction to a specific product. If it's already on your wrist, then it kind of tells them straight away what's happening, and I feel like it might speed up the process. And that's a wrap, guys. So thank you so much for listening. Please do leave a review and share this podcast with friends and family. You can also follow me on social media, which will be provided in the show notes, as well as everything that was discussed today, with citations if appropriate, of course. Now, until next time, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye now. Now, just a disclaimer that the information in this podcast is for information purposes only and is not intended to be used as medical advice. I am not a medical doctor, so I have never and will never give medical advice. You should always speak to a healthcare provider about your unique health needs. My opinions are entirely my own and do not reflect the organisation's opinions that I work for. Due to the nature of my work, I can sometimes have access to unpublished literature. However, due to confidentiality, I will strictly not be discussing unpublished literature. I only discuss findings from published literature in this podcast. I am not responsible for any claims related to procedures, professionals, products, or methods discussed in this podcast, and I do not approve or endorse any products, professionals, services, or methods that may be discussed in this podcast. This podcast was written and produced by me, Ayawafi. Music was also produced by me, Ayawafi, using GarageBand.